Welcome to In Pursuit 360. And today we are going to be talking about how you can go into an interview and show your motivation. So, I'm not talking about jumping up and down and bouncing off the walls to show your motivation, but what are some things that you can do in advance in preparation in answering your interview questions to show your motivation? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, let's get into it. All right, here we go. In Pursuit 360, we're going to talk about how can you demonstrate or show your motivation to wanting to join law enforcement during your interview. During your interview. So you're going to go in, you're going to sit down, say hello, all that good stuff. And one of the very first things that they're probably going to do is say, well, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? So, yeah, I have some notes here. So let me go off of this. So let's talk about in that introduction, when you go to introduce yourself, how about the power of your story? When you're introducing yourself, one of the things that you should make sure you include in that is, why do you even want to get into law enforcement? So in your, hi, I'm so and so, and this is what I've been doing, this is my education, um, throw in there why you want to become a law enforcement officer. What is it that made you decide to go after that career field? For me, it was my grandfather was my mentor. He was security police in the Air Force. He was an Iowa State trooper, and he was a bomber pilot in World War II. Two things I always wanted to do: be a pilot, didn't stay in school, couldn't do that one, or be in law enforcement. And that's the path that I took. So what is your motivation? What is it that makes you want to be a law enforcement officer? What can you add to your story that is going to show them why you're pursuing this career? What is it special that's driving you that's going to make you a good pick? All right. So your story, right? Your purpose. Why? Why are you there? Why are you pursuing this career? That can be one thing. Next, and I don't have my glasses on, so give me a second to read some of this. You're going to tailor your answers to the department. So I've told you this before in other videos. You need to research the department you're going into interview for, that you're applying with. Before you go in, a day or two or a couple of days prior to going in, and do it for an hour or so every day, you need to go in and read things like their mission statement, or their core beliefs, or the chief or the sheriff's message, right? Because they'll have a little section on there that tells a little bit about the chief or the sheriff, depending on what agency you're going for. Give a little bit of background on them, and it'll give probably their theories in law enforcement, right? So you want to take some of that stuff and build that into your answers. If I can take the Stafford Sheriff's Office, core beliefs: integrity, professionalism, honesty. Build these things into your answers. I'm not telling you to make stuff up. See, I get comments every now and then. It's like, yeah, there's no reason to make anything up. Just be honest. Yes, be honest, but there's nothing wrong with being prepared. There's nothing wrong with doing some research and figuring out ways that your answers, while being honest and true, can't bring in some of these core belief words. Maybe they're things that you already believe in or you already do, but you don't think about using those words. Using those words will stand out to them. So use the words. Do your research about the department before you go in there. And that's all part of the third thing that you're going to do, right? In crafting your story. You want to be able to bring things in that are real, that are going to apply to law enforcement. Some of you may be thinking, well, I never did anything. A couple of comments. Somebody said they were a heavy equipment operator for years. Well, what experience does that give me towards law enforcement? Well, I don't know. It depends. Was there ever a confrontation at work that you were involved in, or that you witnessed? Did you help settle it? Did you step in the middle and get everybody to calm down and part ways? That's law enforcement. That's what you do as a cop. Anytime you've seen two buddies or two coworkers or two anybody start getting into it, and you're able to step in and separate them and get things calmed down, that's what law enforcement does. So don't tell me that you have no experiences to draw through. There's no way that you've reached your early 20s and never been involved in some kind of a confrontation, something that you got involved in to help calm down. Even if you've never seen a single person, you've never been a day in the workforce, your school was spectacular and wonderful, tell me there wasn't a time that you didn't get in trouble at home for stealing a cookie or something, right? Where there was some kind of a confrontation in the household. If that's all you've got, use it as an example. If you used communication techniques and things like that to bring things to a peaceful conclusion, then it counts. That's part of what law enforcement is. So you need to craft your story. Craft your story into something that they can relate to doing the job on the street, which is basically to protect and serve. What have you done to protect and serve others? What have you done to help resolve certain issues? These are things that show, again, your motivation into wanting to do the job. Let's talk about demonstrating dedication. What how dedicated are you to becoming a police officer? Have you watched a bunch of videos? Hey, in order to prepare myself for these interviews, I've done a lot of research online and on YouTube and things like that. I've gone way out of my way to try to figure out exactly what it means to be a law enforcement officer, and different techniques that I can use to help get myself through, and whatever. How dedicated are you? What have you done to prepare yourself? What have you done to prepare yourself physically? When you get to the academy, or even when you're applying, you have to go through a physical fitness test. What have you done? How dedicated are you to being able to perform well in an interview? Be able to perform well during the physical fitness test? What have you done? What have you done? These are things that are going to help show your dedication and your motivation. Aligning with community policing. It's really key in law enforcement, especially these days. The We have a bad habit, right? That I'm not going to say media is good, media is bad. What I'm going to tell you is media is out to make money. Media is out for ratings. So showing a police officer who goes to a family whose house got broken into the day before Christmas, and they go out and buy a bunch of Christmas presents for the kids, they might show that once, and it's kind of a feel-good community story, right? But you show an officer that got into an argument or a fight with somebody on the side of the road, and they tase them, and they're flopping around in the middle of the street saying, "Oh, don't hurt me," right? And then they tase them again. They'll show that for days, right? But that's not the majority of what happens out here. It is important that law enforcement and the media doesn't make it easy. Only for ratings and money, right? Ratings and money. Forget about if they're lying or political twists or whatever, right? It's all about ratings and money. They're going to show what gets people watching and riled up, right? Now, we as law enforcement have to go and combat that. We have to fight against it. How do we do that? It's through community policing. The relationship that we in law enforcement build with the community around us. That's what combats the garbage that they show on the media over and over and over again. Once the people within the community realize who you are and that you're there to help them, they're going to ignore all that stuff too, right? Even they'll say, well, that may be somewhere else, but it's not in my community. So how you need to be able to show that you understand the importance of community relations during your interview. So during some of your questions, if they bring up things like how do you deal with I don't know, a neighbor dispute, right? Neighbors are going back and forth at each other about whatever. How are you going to deal with that? How do you deal with it to let the community know that you're really on their side, right? So you need to kind of think this out in advance, right? It's all about community. Handling ethical questions. So ethical questions are huge. They want to know that you're going to be honest, that you have integrity. You're not going to let anything get in your way. They always ask that question about, your partner and you go into a store and they steal a bottle of water or something and walk out the door without paying it. What do you do? Do you snitch them out? Do you talk to them? Do you, how do you handle that? And the answer is always something like, well, you're going to talk to them first to make sure that they know that they were supposed to pay for it. And if they give you any lip about paying for it, or it seems to be something regular, you need to go tell your supervisor. It's pretty simple. There's no ifs, ands, or but about it. A thief is a thief is a thief. If you're wearing a badge and you're a thief, you're a thief. If you don't wear a badge and you're a thief, you're a thief. If you deserve to be charged, you deserve to be charged. I don't care if you're wearing a badge or not, right? That's ethical. Doing the right thing when nobody's looking, right? So are you willing to do that? Are you prepared? That needs to be demonstrated in your answers to any of the questions that may come up. Are you a person of integrity? That's a big deal. All right, let's talk about body language. Your body language is critical during the interview. If you're sitting here answering, and I'm putting my notes down, obviously. So if you're sitting here answering questions and you've got your arms crossed, that's being closed off, right? If you're leaned back in your chair like this, now you're a little too relaxed and you're kind of lazy looking, right? Your body language says a lot about you. Your body language says a lot when you're out on a call dealing with the public, right? If you're like this, you're closed off, you're not listening anymore. People pick up on this. They're going to watch for this during your interview. Sit straight up in your chair, back straight, neck straight, hands comfortable either in your lap or like do like a crossover like this on the table, right? And on the table and let them rest on the table. Be careful not to fidget. I always told the thing that like if I had a table where they couldn't see my feet, I would sit there and like wiggle my toes, right? Or maybe like kind of like bounce one leg. If they couldn't see it, right? If they couldn't see its way, kind of getting out that nervous energy, which believe it or not, I actually do while I'm making these videos. A lot of times I'll be tapping my feet or whatever. And sometimes you'll even see me kind of wiggle in the chair. That's kind of releasing that energy so that I can focus on what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to do. If they can see your feet, you got to find something else, right? And just hold that body language, right? Careful about slumping over on the side or leaning. Just be aware of it, right? Body language is huge. Also, something they pick up on right away. Let's say practicing, right? I wrote down practicing perfection, but so as my father used to tell me all the time when I played football, does practice make perfect? And the answer is no. Practice does not make perfect. You can practice the same thing wrong over and over again, and suddenly it's not going to become perfect. It's still going to be wrong, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. So write out some questions that we've discussed or some things that you can think of that they may come up with on the interview or things that you've heard on past interviews, right? Get together with a friend. Get together with a friend and have them ask the questions and you practice answering. Have your family members sit across from you at a table, run through the whole scenario on your own, or, or, or go to SpartanTrainingSystems.com. I'm going to put a link down below somewhere. In about a week, this link is, or the website will be live and fixed and able to schedule appointments. And I'm going to start offering interview coaching. All right, interview coaching. So we can talk about how do you pull experience out of some of these things, out of your past jobs that don't have anything to do with law enforcement. What if you've never had a job? What if you went from high school to college to law enforcement, or you went from high school to McDonald's to law enforcement? Where can you pull experience from while you're answering certain ones of these questions? So anyway, I'm going to offer this interview coaching thing, SpartanTrainingSystems.com. Link's going to be down below. Hopefully it'll be up and running in about a week. All right. So, but perfect practice, right? Perfect practice. Think about the theories we've discussed in answering these questions. What is it that they're looking for to get out of a specific question? And you need to figure out how you're going to supply that. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to have their own delivery. I've been doing this a long time. So my talking, my tone, my method, my hand gestures, all of this is developed over years and years of presentations and training that I've conducted, training that I've taken, right? So now you need to start building yourself up so that when you go and sit in an interview, you can look them right dead in the eye, make that eye contact, and give firm, steady answers to every single member that's on the board and act like you're talking to each one of them individually. All right. So perfect practice. Perfect practice makes perfect. So you got to practice, practice, practice. I'd love it if you came and practice with me. You don't want to do that, practice with a family member or a friend, or make contact with somebody at the law enforcement agency and ask them if they can ask you a couple of questions and then kind of grade your answers. If they've got time, someone will help you out. It's all about paying it forward, right? In order to serve the community, we all have to work together. So anyway, all right, real quick, something I haven't touched on in a while. Once I hit 5,000 subscribers, and we're getting closer and closer and closer, I'm going to be giving away one of my challenge coins. There you go, In Pursuit 360. It's got the Motors logo and a canine logo there. Then it's got the Pentagon Police badge on the back, and it's kind of hard to see, but it's got the 4 core beliefs of the Stafford County Sheriff's Office on the other side. So I'll be giving one of these away once we hit 5,000 5,000 subscribers. So we're getting close on that, and I thank all of you for that. The other thing is, if you want to start prepping yourself for your firearms training in the academy, or even after you get into the academy, or prepping it before you go to the academy, may I please recommend this here is called a SIRT gun, SIRT. If you go to Next Level Training, and I'll put the link down below, nextleveltraining.com, they offer these SIRT guns in many different model types, and there are different kinds of them. This one just so happens to be a Smith & Wesson M&P. Not exactly my favorite gun, but it's the one that we're using right now at the job I'm at. So Smith & Wesson M&P, right? It's got all kinds of neat little features to it. It's got laser lights here at the end. You can see that one at the bottom. That's going to show you when your finger actually hits the trigger, and that's going to be your actual trigger pull. The one at the top is going to be when you actually press the trigger, showing where your round ends up. They're very, very accurate. So yeah, they don't actually function. They don't slide or anything, but it does give you that feeling of your play in your trigger before you hit that stop, right? And then it also lets you control that trigger reset so that it's minimal movement, right? And you can practice this. Get yourself a holster, put it in there, put it in the holster, and you can actually practice your draw. You can actually practice your draw. I'll demonstrate that again later in more detail. But Next Level Training, the SIRT guns, if you use the discount code InPursuit059, yep, my email was 059-360 wasn't available. But anyway, InPursuit059, it'll get you 10% off. 10% off, and you can get a lot of good practice in. Dry fire is probably one of the best training things you can do for firearms. But we'll get more into that later. All right, so that's it. So don't forget, SpartanTrainingSystems.com, Next Level Training for the SIRT gun, and I'll put the discount code down below. And that's it, right? Okay, so make sure that you show that you are motivated when you go into these interviews. So hit the subscribe button down below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down if you have to. Just do me a favor and tell me why you gave me a thumbs down. Let me make it better for you. And the bell notification will tell you when the next video is coming out. So in the meanwhile, as always, be safe out there.